Hello gamers, what is up? I'm J104 and well, this long awaited day has finally come. Mafia The Old Country has released and well, I have played it. Not only have I played it, I've actually played through it twice already, and let's just say, I very much enjoyed my time. This could be a sign of good things to come for the Mafia series. If they get another game greenlit, that is. I don't know where to start with Mafia The Old Country. This is sort of just a tertiary sort of video. I don't know if that's how you'd use that word in the slightest. It just sounds fancy, so I wanted to use it. But this is a smaller video that I want to do. I want to work on a very long proper video for it and maybe even loop back into my other Mafia videos. I have even brought books to read on the Sicilian mob to prepare for this video. So that's probably a year out, to be honest, which is why I'm doing this one at the current moment. So what do I think of Mafia The Old Country? Well, if you couldn't tell by my glowing intro, I think it was a fabulous game. Would I say it's game of the year so far? Do you know what? I probably would. But I haven't played a lot of games that came out this year, so I don't know if that's much of a glowing endorsement, but I think it's a return to what Mafia should be. A third-person, linear-driven, story-based, narratively excellent game. Okay, it's not the greatest narrative they've ever done. I actually still think that's probably Lincoln Clay's story, but Enzo... oh god, what's his last name? Favera? I don't know, they all just refer to him as Enzo or Caruso, which I believe means slave or orphan slave in Italian. I don't know, I don't speak Italian. But his story is probably, in the grand scheme of things, better than Vito's. It's sort of a Romeo-Juliet sort of love story thing. And well, I know people say they're overdone, but listen, Romeo and Juliet has been told thousands of times over hundreds of different mediums. What's another one, I guess? But no, the game was very enjoyable. It looks really good. Like, it looked fantastic, and it even ran fantastic for me, which I was surprising because I'm having some computer issues at the moment, unfortunately. Like, whenever my GPU senses the slightest amount of load, the fan's just like, alright, 3000 RPM, that's what you requested, right? So that's fun, but it did not affect this game in the slightest, and it just looks incredible. Some of the shots of the valley where the game is based just look impeccable, and the world is amazing. That's one thing I really liked about Mafia 2, and probably more Mafia the Definitive Edition than the original Mafia game, but they are incredible open worlds, even though they don't need to, because you don't go to half the places the game devs make in the main story, and unless you're doing collectibles, which you don't have to do and they're not enforced, and I did not do any collecting during this game, and I probably won't go back and do collectibles because I ain't no Ubisoft enjoyer these days. But just the amount of effort they put into their worlds, counting they make you go to servers, like they know where you're going to go, so they know what to make good, but everything else just is also up to that same scratch. I'm sure some of that is Unreal Engine 5 doing a lot of heavy lifting, but still, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's designed fabulously. It really feels like early 1900s Sicily, or was it 1800s? Sometimes I get confused with how centuries work. But it looks amazing, and well, I haven't been to 1905 Sicily, but I imagine this is how it would have looked. And another part of imagining how it would have been, the guns and the cars both feel from the era, which is basically to say horrendously awful. Like, the cars control awfully, they have horrible handling, you're basically in a bathtub on wheels, bicycle wheels at that, and it's time accurate. And I also think it's very interesting, a game that takes place in the crossover between horses and cars. Now, of course, the sort of rural Sicily sort of areas, I'm sure that crossover took a lot longer, but it's just an interesting time frame, seeing how people think versus cars and horses. Of course, they only think how the developers made them think, but that's not the point, I think. I don't know what point I was trying to make there. But also the combat's okay. It's not amazing, but what Mafia game has amazing combat? Definitely not 3, definitely not 2, and also not 1. So, good company. The knife combat, obviously, apparently a big part of Sicilian culture is the knives. They're big knife enjoyers, much like any teenagers on the London Underground. And I felt the knife combat was really good. I enjoyed it. It's simple, but to be honest, it took me a while to get the hang of how to do it 100% properly. But once you do, there's something extremely satisfying about defeating someone without taking a single hit. But that took me a while. I think there's a segment of the game where you have a knife fight in a burning building. And I think I died about 7 times during that, which is not great. But one of the only times I did die, as this game has a little bit of a difficulty problem. I was playing on the hardest difficulty and I felt it was just a little easy. That's one downside. It's not a massive thing, but it's also like, you want to be a little bit challenged in your games. But hey, I'm not complaining. Much like those people are complaining that you can't swim in the game, which is interesting because I don't think you could have swum in Mafia 2 or 1. I'm not sure on that. Do you know why? They're linear games and you go nowhere near the ocean for the most part, so why would I know if I could swim? The only exception is Mafia 3, but Mafia 3 is a lot of exceptions from the other Mafia games anyways. So what else is there to talk about? The acting, it's all very good, I felt. Most of the accents are pretty good. There's a couple where you can tell it's an American doing their version of an Italian accent. And the Don Torrisi, who is your Don, he does that thing that all Mafia Dons do in movies and games, is he does the Marlon Brando.
What are you doing here, Damiano? Answer me.
But he does that. Maybe that's just how he sounds, okay? But I feel it's not necessary. Like, your Don doesn't need to sound like that and probably shouldn't. Because then even if your story is nothing like The Godfather, it immediately has a connection to that and it will be labeled as a lesser Godfather clone, which this game is not. Is it better than The Godfather? No, that's probably one of the best movies ever made. But it stands on its own feet, and that's the one of the things I really don't like about the game. But one person's voice, that's not going to ruin a game for me. And once again, as I said, maybe he just normally sounds like that. And then, of course, there are some characters that make the crossover between Mafia 1, Mafia 2, and Mafia The Old Country. I don't think there's anyone from Mafia 3. I didn't see a Sal Marcano Jr. or Jr. as in when he was a child, or Sal Marcano's father to my knowledge, but there's a couple characters. The main one I would say is Leo Galante, who's I think has now been in the tied most Mafia games, and unfortunately for me at least, Vito Scaletta does not make an appearance in this game unless I have missed him. But I think this is the first Mafia game without Vito, which I mean, I think that it was bound to happen obviously, because I think Mafia 4, if it ever does come out, is meant to take place in the 1970s in Vegas, which of course he would not be alive at that point. But you could have had a little Easter egg towards him. Major spoilers here. It's not sort of story spoilers. I'm not going to say who ends up there, but spoilers nonetheless. The end of the game, there is a boat which is on its way to Empire Bay. A part of me was hoping when I saw that boat there'd just be a little kid sitting on a man's shoulders like we saw in that picture of Vito making his way to America. But unfortunately, nada. But apart from returning characters, there's also returning locations, as the Chapter 1 church and government building that you raid in World War II takes place in this city. I forgot the name. Sanchalist, I think. Maybe? God, for someone who's already played the game twice, I'm horrible at remembering city names. But that's the exact building, and you get to go in there within the game and look around and do stuff. There's no machine gun on the second floor balcony, but there's a second floor balcony, which is pretty cool. But anyways, I'm going to leave this here as I'm rambling. I didn't write down much. I just got keynotes that I want to hit for this video. And basically, those are summed up as Mafia The Old Country, very, very good. Maybe Game of the Year. People who are complaining because you can't swim in the game are stupid and shouldn't play Mafia games because they're not about swimming. They are, however, about playing tennis. Big up the Top Stars. Or not. I have never actually played that game. I think it's actually called Top Spins, not Top Stars. But anyways, I have been J104. This has been a brief but exaggerated video about Mafia The Old Country. If you liked the game, let me know below. And if you didn't like the game, why? What's wrong with you? No, I'm joking. You people are allowed to have their opinions. You're allowed to be wrong. Anyways, I've been J104. Peace.